Hello, I'm Mary Elswick and this is my presentation on Monet. In this presentation, we'll explore Claude Monet, who was a French painter and a founder of the French Impressionist painting, and the most consistent practicer of the movement's philosophy of expressing one's perceptions before nature, especially as applied to plein air landscape painting. The term Impressionism is derived from the title of his painting, Impression, Sol Levant, or in English, Impression, Sunrise, which was first exhibited in 1874 in the first independent exhibition mounted by Monet and his associates as an alternative to the Salon de Paris. Monet's ambition of documenting the French countryside led him to adopt a method of painting the same scene many times in order to capture the changing light and the passing of the seasons. From 1883, Monet lived in Germany, where he purchased a house and property and began a vast landscaping project which included the lily pads that would become the subjects of his best-known works. He began painting the water lilies in 1899, first in vertical views with a Japanese bridge as a central figure, and later in a series of large-scale paintings that was to occupy him continuously for the next 20 years of his life. Influences and experiences. In 1856, his chance meeting with Eugene Boldin, a painter of small beach scenes, opened his eyes to the possibilities of plein-air painting. The 5 years he spent at Ellengale, spending much time on the River Seine in a little floating studio, were formative in his study of the effects of light and reflections. In 1914, he began to develop cataracts. The paintings done with the cataracts affected his vision, have a general reddish tone, which is characteristic of the vision of cataract victims. After his operations to remove his cataracts, he may have been able to see ultraviolet light, much like a bee. This is a brief overview of his medium, technique, and process. He used oil paints on a light canvas, sometimes white, sometimes off-white. He painted many of his paintings completely outdoors, which was very unusual at the time. He spent 5 years at Argenteuil, spending much time on the River Seine in a little floating studio, where he began to think in terms of colors and shapes rather than the scenes and objects. He used bright colors in dabs and dashes and squiggles of paint. You can see this in a lot of his later works as well. This is one of his earlier works. In English, it's called Luncheon on the Grass. It's an 1865 to 1866 oil on canvas painting by Claude Monet, produced in response to the 1863 work of the same title by Edward Monet. It remains unfinished. Le Japonais is a 1876 painting by Claude Monet, now in the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston. The full-length portrait depicts a European woman in a kimono standing in front of a wall covered in Japanese fans. Paintings of European women in Japanese costumes had been popular in France since the 1860s, and Monet's contribution to the genre may have been motivated by a desire to generate income and publicity at a time when he was in need of money. Monet's wife, Camille, modeled for the portrait, wearing a blonde wig and staring out at the viewer in an expression that period critics saw as sexually suggestive. In 1876, Camille Monet became ill with tuberculosis. Their second son, Michael, was born on 17th of March, 1878. This second child weakened her already failing health. In the summer of that year, the family moved to the village Vauquille, where they shared a house with the family of Ernest Holchid, a wealthy department store owner and patron of the arts. In 1878, Camille Monet was diagnosed with urinary cancer. She died on 5th of September, 1879, at the age of 32. Monet made a study in oils of his dead wife. Many years later, Monet confessed to his friend Georges Clemenceau that his need to analyze colors was both the joy and torment of his life. He explained, "One day I found myself looking at my beloved wife's dead face and just systematically noting the colors according to an automatic reflex." John Berger describes the work as a blizzard of white, gray, purplish paint, a terrible blizzard of loss which will forever efface her features. In fact, there can be very few deathbed paintings which have been so intensely felt or subjectively expressive. Monet's rough road to success. The road to recognition was anything but smooth for Monet. He was often rejected by the conservative art establishment. His Impression Sunrise was mocked when the Impressionists first exhibited together in 1874, and he often lived hand to mouth. At one point he even tried to commit suicide. But after a whole lot of hard work, now his art sells for tens of millions of dollars. For an example, a version of Haystacks sold in May 2019 for $110.7 million. Monet's additions to Impressionism. Monet has been described as the driving force behind Impressionism. One of the pillars of Impressionism is the understanding of the effects of light on the local color of objects, and the effects of the juxtaposition of colors with each other. The painting on the side is an example of this. In 1892 he produced what is probably his best-known series, 26 Views of Rohan Cathedral. In these paintings, Monet broke with painterly traditions by cropping the subject so only a portion of the facade is seen on the canvas. The paintings do not focus on the grand medieval building, but on the play of light and shade across its surface, transforming the solid masonry. Claude Monet's most famous works have to be his paintings of water lilies. They're a continuation of his fascination with capturing the ever-changing relationship between color and lighting. They were designed to cover the walls of the gallery and surround the viewer so it felt as though the viewer was part of the scene. In conclusion, Claude Monet helped to revolutionize the way people think about painting forever. He moved painting into the modern era and into a freer and more creative way of expressing and communicating through art. Thank you.